Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural Parastatals Watch, and I am Wazanai Manyore. So this is a platform which was specifically created in conjunction with the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Resettlement right here in Zimbabwe in efforts with the aim of bringing in the 11 parastatals that fall under it. They will be expanding their mandate, their role as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. Now today, at this point in time, we are here in Harare at the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, and I have taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Minwa Gudu, the incoming CEO of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. Mr. Gudu, it's a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As we get into our segment, say, your sentiments and your comments on where we are right now in this season, in this tobacco marketing season. How is the season progressing?
So far, we have had 60 selling days, and around 165,000 growers have registered to sell tobacco this season, and they've collectively delivered around 180 million kilograms of tobacco, valued 480 million US dollars. The average price was better this year, so we would rather say it is a farmer's year, because the average price was at 275, is 13% higher as compared to last year.
Okay. Thank you so much, Say. Moving right along, we hear that there is a decline of cigarettes at global level. What will be the impact of this on our Zimbabwean farmers?
Okay, fine. Factory manufactured cigarettes became very popular in 1945 after the Second World War, and the highest demand was reached in 1967. And ever since, we have had a decline of between 1 to 2% annually, and this has been driven mainly by the anti-smoking lobbies, as well as introduction of new products on the market, especially the reduced risk products called e-cigarettes and e-vapors. Now, that obviously would have an impact on supply chains like Zimbabwe, but for us, we are very lucky because we produce flavor type of tobacco, which will always be in demand. So for our farmers, I encourage them to produce good quality tobacco so that at least we remain relevant to the global market.
Thank you so much. Say, indeed, the Zimbabwe flavored tobacco has a different taste and it keeps us competitive. As we move right along, at times people question the effectiveness of this organization, the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. I'm referring to our private sector, the farmers. They always have issues surrounding, marketing of tobacco that arise as our season commences. What are your sentiments on that? And maybe can you set the record straight so that our viewers there at home would understand what you represent?
Okay, fine. TIMB is a regulatory authority. We ensure that there is actually a fair playing ground for all participants, be they growers, merchants, auction floors, or even graders. So we look after the affairs of everyone, not necessarily only one segment. We have been very, very, very effective in terms of enforcing the regulations.
Thank you so much, Say. I want us to talk about issues surrounding collusions in the tobacco industry. Like I said, there are always disgruntlements here and there. And you as the incoming CEO, there are issues surrounding collusions in the tobacco industry. Merchants and TIMB, sometimes merchants among themselves, farmers are always crying, they always have issues. What can you say about that? Farmers plotting to do side marketing, merchants are plotting to shortchange the farmers. Your comments, your views and suggestions on that?
There is actually no collusion in the industry. If there is any collusion in the industry, it means TIMB is actually sleeping on its job. In terms of side marketing, it's actually a cancer which is going to affect the fabric of the financing model in the tobacco sector. And as stakeholders, we sit down and try to come up with a solution to that problem.
Okay, thank you so much. So on that note, viewers, we're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness. Today, we are here at the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, and I am seated with the new CEO, Mr. Minwa Gudu. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with me, the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter. Leave your comments and suggestions on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Now, earlier on, before into the break, break, Mr. Gudu here was telling us, he was demystifying the issues surrounding collusions in the tobacco industry, and in his words he said that there is no such thing, and it would mean that TIMB is sleeping on duty. Moving right along, Mr. Gudu, we are in the second segment of our program. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I want us to talk about your projections of the future. You've been around the tobacco industry for quite some time, 2 decades to be exact. Let us talk about and look into the future, say 5 years from now. What are your plans? What are you planning?
Currently, working together with government and other stakeholders, we are developing what is called a tobacco value chain transformation strategy, which will be launched by government. One of the pillars or objectives under the tobacco value chain transformation strategy is to increase the size of the crop to 300 million. So we're working on that to ensure that we achieve 300 million kilograms of tobacco. It's very easy to achieve. We need to improve efficiencies in production. We need to ensure that we invest in infrastructure so that at least farmers will be able to irrigate their crop. We also invest in tobacco handling infrastructure. We reduce the losses. We will be able to attain 300 million kilograms of tobacco without necessarily encouraging new growers to come. I can tell you that in 2019, we produced 262 million kilograms. So what it means really is from improved efficiencies, we will be able to generate another additional 38 million kilograms. And some of you might wonder, where are we going to get the market for the additional volume? It's very easy to market a crop as long as the crop is compliant to environment, social, and governance issues, is directed by standard sustainable tobacco production code developed by our global cigarette manufacturers. We need not only to look at the environment, but we also need to look at the communities where the tobacco is grown. We also need to improve those communities.
Okay, thank you so much. This speaks volumes of where we are going if you are talking of improving the livelihoods of our farmers by investing in irrigation infrastructure and also with how they are producing their tobacco. Let us talk about what you intend to add. Like I've said earlier, you've been in the industry for quite some time. You've seen a lot of things happening, and now you are seated as the new CEO. What do you intend to add or rectify to the existing structure, the existing model?
There are basically 3 things that I will be looking at. Firstly, the issues to do with sustainable tobacco production that I have alluded to. That is number 1. It's very, very important for us to make sure that our tobacco is produced in a sustainable manner, 100%. Because, for example, our competitors like Brazil, they are already producing their tobacco in a sustainable manner. And it's a lot easier to market that crop at global level. Number 2, I want to look at improving the viability of the tobacco farmer. So there are a lot of issues that we need to look at with other stakeholders and other government agencies to ensure that the viability of the tobacco farmer is improved. Number 3, I'm looking at the enforcement of the regulations and probably coming up with even new regulations in order to improve the industry. So I am actually carrying 3 things: viability, sustainability, and the enforcement of regulations.
Thank you so much, If we look at SDG number 12, UN Agenda Vision 2030, it speaks of responsible production and consumption. We are talking of sustainability, which we are alluding to just right now. In the wake of COVID-19, this is the second marketing season that we are in, with under the new normal imposed on us by the COVID-19 pandemic. What do you have as a plan? What are you doing at the moment to ensure safety of the staff of TIMB, the private sector, the merchants, the farming community? What are you doing at the moment currently?
Obviously, COVID-19 brought some new restrictions on movement of farmers and how the tobacco has been marketed. Some farmers have not been able to really attend sales for their tobacco, and it's regrettable. However, there are also some other positive things that were brought by COVID-19. Number 1, we were able to fast-track our decentralization of marketing. Okay. In 2012, we tried to decentralize the marketing of tobacco, but a lot of players in the industry were adamant to say, probably we are not ready. Okay. So to us, COVID-19 gave us an opportunity to be able to decentralize. There are a lot of advantages that come with decentralization. Farmers don't necessarily now have to come to Harare. They can actually buy tobacco in Karoi, in Mvurui, and so forth. And this time around, almost 41% of tobacco that has been delivered so far has been delivered through decentralized selling points. So it has been a very good thing for us, and it is also in line with government policy of devolution. The other positive thing that come out of COVID that we have applauded so much is the fact that now a lot of players in the industry are trying to make use of ICTs, information communication technologies, so that we can improve the efficiency of marketing. We want a situation whereby in future, farmers are able to monitor their sales in the comfort of their homes and not necessarily coming. And this has been an opportunity. A lot of research and development is going on within TIMB to ensure that we develop ICTs in future in order to improve the marketing of tobacco.
Now, moving right along, Mr. Gudu, how can Zimbabwe benefit globally from the tobacco value chain?
Globally, the tobacco value chain is around 858 billion. Zimbabwe produces 7% of all the leaf that is produced at global level. So if you do a rough calculation, it would tell you that 7% of 858 is 51 billion. So we should be getting 51 billion from our tobacco industry. But regrettably, our value chain is only plus or minus 1 billion. So we really need to put in place strategies so that we can optimize our benefits from the global tobacco value chain. So some of the lowest hanging fruits are we really need to invest more in value addition and beneficiation. At the moment, plus or minus 1.5% of what we produce is actually value added. So we really need to sit down as stakeholders, including government, so that at least we interrogate why are we not doing it. The biggest exporter of cigarettes in Africa is South Africa. Indeed, they don't produce a lot of leaf like what we do. So we really need to understand the model in South Africa and try to replicate in Zimbabwe so that at least we can value add and optimize our benefits from the global tobacco value chain.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. There you heard it, viewers. I'm with Mr. Mino Gudu, the new CEO of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. He was telling us that the low-hanging fruits lie within value addition and beneficiation. On that note, viewers, we're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions. We are here in the third and final segment of your program, where I'm with Mr. Mino Gudu, the CEO of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. Earlier on, before we went to the break, we're talking of the benefits that come with value addition and beneficiation. Mr. Gudu, we are in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yes, as we round off our segment, Mr. Gudu, I want us to talk about the other roadmaps that might be available in order to optimize value from tobacco.
I think we really need to look at the incubation hubs that were launched by His Excellency at the universities. And we encourage our private sector to work with incubation hubs, develop new products that can compete at global level. We really need new products like the reduced risk products that can deliver nicotine. That's the future of tobacco. So we do have the knowledge and the know-how. So perhaps what we need to do is to have some incentives whereby the business community would develop new products that can be sold on the global market. The other way is also to look at smoking products like what we call roll your own cigarettes, which can really be developed at farm level. And our tobacco farmers will be able to export a finished product as compared to just producing a leaf for merchants to be able to export. And there is also an emerging market in Africa and Middle East for shisha tobacco. Is also a low-hanging fruit, so we really need to go into those areas so that we can optimize value from our tobacco.
Thank you so much, Say. There has been a bit of controversy when it comes to the various players in the industry, and the question is, why is TIMB involved in supporting farmers by giving them inputs? Isn't there a conflict of interest?
TIMB was actually formed in 1935, and the name was Tobacco Marketing Board. The Act was amended in 1997 to include the name industry in the name. of the organization. So we are now Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. The word industry in our name means that we are not a passive regulator of the tobacco industry. We need to develop the industry that we are regulating. And we are not unique. There are also other regulators in the country that are involved in developing the industries that they regulate. For instance, you can look at Fidelity. Fidelity Printers is the regulator in the gold, but as you are aware, they can also install stamp mills, grinding mills, and so forth for processing of gold. So they are also developing their industry. And if you look at Potras as well, I've seen them erecting base station in order to develop the industry that they regulate. So what we are doing is not unique to TIMB. We need to develop the industry that we regulate. Otherwise, if we sleep on our laurels, we can wake up without an industry. So we need to be active in developing that industry.
Thank you so much, Say. Being active in developing the industry that you are regulating. Now, we want to talk about your comments on diversification of farmers. I understand that if you look at SDG 1 and 2 on the UN Agenda Vision 2030, it talks of poverty alleviation and eradication of hunger. Now, you are coming in as the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, and you are promoting diversification. Your comments on this?
Okay, diversification is very key. What we're actually aiming at is that come 2025, at least 25% of the tobacco farmers' revenue should come from alternative crops. But we're not saying farmers should stop growing tobacco, but we are saying farmers should diversify with tobacco as an anchor crop. The income that is generated from tobacco can be reinvested into other crops so that the farmer does not necessarily put all his eggs in one basket. So there are quite a number of alternative crops that we are promoting. We are promoting our farmers to be able to grow cannabis. They can also grow industrial hemp. They can also grow chia. They can grow even food crops, some form of diversification. And this is not new. Even prior to our land reform, the tobacco farmer was also the horticulture farmer. The tobacco farmer was also a paprika farmer, and the tobacco farmer was also producing beef, so and also cut flowers. So we really need to continue with that growth path. So let's diversify, but we're not saying let's do away with tobacco.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. As we round off, we have come towards the end of our episode. Let us talk about the pertinent issue surrounding deforestation. You are a regulator in the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, and the fuel that is used to cure tobacco, some are saying it is the main cause of deforestation in our country. What is your plan? What do you have in store for the future?
Tobacco curing has got a huge impact on indigenous trees. Yeah, I agree. We are guilty as an industry in that area, but we have actually some initiatives that we are pursuing. Firstly, the merchants on their own have formed a trust or an association called Sustainable Afforestation Association, and they've been planting trees across tobacco growing districts. And to date, our records show that they've planted more than 20,000 hectares of woodlots. And government on its part, in 2015, they introduced a compulsory afforestation levy for all farmers, and that fund is being administered by Forestry Commission, and I understand they are also rolling out a tobacco firewood program for the benefit of the tobacco farmers. But we really need to do a lot more in that area, because if we don't do anything, again, in 5 years or 10 years, we can wake up without an industry to talk about. So it's a very, very good question. I want to thank you for asking that question. So we really need to do more research and development to find other renewable sources of energy for curing tobacco. Yes, in the short term, we can promote use of coal, but however, unfortunately, coal is also not a very good source in terms of carbon footprint on the environment. Yes. So we really need to plant a lot of fast-growing trees like eucalyptus, like bamboo, or we can use other sources like ethanol, if the economics of using ethanol are okay. We can also develop solar-powered barns. They are there, the Chinese are using them, but we really need some support initiatives in order to bring that technology to this country. So the sustainable tobacco production is a very, very important issue that we need to address.
Thank you so much, Say. I like that you alluded to the fact that you need to engage in research and development so that you come up with an alternative fuel to curing tobacco. Speaking of relevance, Mr. Gudu, currently the auction floors constitute about 6% of the volume of tobacco. Are they still relevant to the marketing system of tobacco in Zimbabwe?
Auction floors have served us very well since the 1930s. And it's a very an efficient way of pricing tobacco at the market. And we would want to continue with the auction floor. And we're very delighted that on board we now have the AFC holdings, which we think is going to make money available for farmers to borrow and self-finance. So we want to grow our auction volume because remember the auction volume is what we use as a basis for coming up with minimum prices on the contract floor. But there are other issues that we also need to look at. Globally, the shift is going towards contract farming because tobacco produced under contract farming is traceable in terms of sustainability issues that we talked about. We need the auction volume, but we also need to pay attention to traceability so that the tobacco is produced in a sustainable manner.
We have come to the end of our episode, Mr. Gudu. But before we round off, your word of advice to our farming community and the various players in the industry.
I think what we need to do as tobacco farmers, we really need to continue to work very hard in order to improve the quality. The quality of the tobacco is very, very important, and we also reduce our handling losses. Our records show that 15 to 20% of our volume is lost through handling losses. So farmers should actually take heed and play a very pivotal role in improving the efficiencies of their handling facilities and work towards improving the quality of the tobacco crop. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There you heard it, viewers. This was Mr. Minuel Gudu, the CEO of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. Mr. Gudu, it was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much.
From me, your host Wadzi Wazanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore. And Mukoma Dani Daniel Muranganwa. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.